Hi everyone, how are we all doing today? I just wanted to take this time to say one very simple thing, and that is, I stand with Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine. Why do I repeat that with a little bit more emphasis? Well, it seems that's a very difficult thing for some people to say, and I really don't understand why, because it really is actually very simple. We realize that the war that's been going on in Ukraine since the invasion of Russia has been going on for quite some time. There's been some serious loss of life and damage, mostly to civilian populations, and it still wages on. And yet there are some people, politicians, figures in the media, that just can't seem to get the simple message, is that you want to stand on what's right and not what's wrong. You want to stand with somebody who's defending his country and not an evil dictator or an authoritarian, namely Vladimir Putin. Yeah, as far as the reasons as to why he invaded are one thing, but the simple truth is that there was a diplomatic solution there, and chances are this invasion was inevitable. But regardless of whether or not it is, it's happening now, and for some reason, people seem to be more comfortable taking the side of Vladimir Putin, speaking on his behalf, or just simply not caring about what goes on. And you should care, because, you know, it's not just politics at this point. It is a humanitarian crisis. It goes beyond the politics at this point. Just to give you some examples as to what's been going on, on and off in the news. I'll read some examples. We have Tucker Carlson, from Fox, who's been rooting for Russia, then later claiming that it was just a joke. Meanwhile, the Russian media likes to use some of his talking points, likes to use some of his skits, and he just can't seem to take a hint. And joke or not, it's a joke in very bad taste. And deep down, I don't really think he cares. I think for him, it's just all about the ratings, and he'll say whatever stupid things he wants, no matter how many times Russia uses, some of his bogus propaganda. We have J.D. Vance, candidate from Ohio, who used to be a Trump opposer and now has become a Trump bootlicker. He doesn't care about Ukraine. He blames it on transgender. I don't fully get the twisted logic as to why he does that. But in the end, his pretty much closing statement is he just doesn't care about Ukraine. You can express concern and even do charitable things for the benefit of Ukraine without sacrificing all your values, without putting America first. That is possible. So why that's such a difficult for him, I don't understand why. And there's more. Tulsi Gabbard, he blames the West for not meeting Russia's demands. They didn't want Ukraine to be a part of NATO. Well, I don't quite get that either, and stuff like that. Here's the simple thing about Ukraine as far as Russia's concerned. Let's pretend for 1 minute Ukraine didn't exist. Let's say it was this giant lake right next to Russia. Russia would get along just fine. I know they've had their history and everything and stuff like that, but does that justify an invasion? No, it does not. Does that justify a lot of the cruelty and the senseless killing of the people of Ukraine? No, it does not. And the way I see it, from what I've heard, other people have predicted that Putin thought this invasion would be a slam dunk, and it hasn't been. And he's suffered considerably as a result of it. The U.S. and other countries have put sanctions on Russia, which have negatively impacted the people of Russia. Some like to say that the people of Russia fully support Putin. That is not the case. And when I say this video, that doesn't mean I hate the people of Russia, that I'm opposed to Russia. I'm not. I'm opposed to their government, to the things that the government is doing. And, I have friends and coworkers who are Russia, who were born and raised, spent a good portion of their life in Russia, and immigrated to America, and they are opposed to what Putin's doing. They are in support of Ukraine. Some of them also have family and friends in Ukraine. And they pretty much say that, yeah, a lot of people on the media say they support Russia, but deep down they don't, because they're scared to speak out, because they can be arrested, because they live under an authoritarian. They live in fear, so it's not so simple for them to just turn around and say, I'm opposed to the war. And there have been protests too, and there have been arrests in Russia as a result of it. So could I tell you statistically what percentage of Russia is pro or against Ukraine? That I don't fully know. But I can just tell you this much. I'm willing to bet that a majority of the people of Russia are opposed to what Putin's doing and stand in support of Ukraine. And it's a shame that a lot of them have to suffer as a result of Putin's actions, of his cowardice, of his evil intentions. Also, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey. They voted against almost every bill to counter Russia's invasion. The claims Ukraine provoked the war. Now, to be fair, in Marjorie Taylor Greene's defense, she has spoken out against saying she's not in support of Putin. But this was after she attended a white supremacist meeting, which was very pro-Russia, which actually cheered on Russia, and her excuse was later she had no idea it was a white supremacist meeting. Really? If you choose to believe that, but then again, we're talking about a woman who believes in Jewish space lasers that cause forest fires, and that Bill Gates wants to control us using fake hamburger meat. And we have Madison Cawthorn, who called Zelensky a thug. He himself, who has been recently, ousted from the GOP because of some of his, wicked behavior and stuff like that. And last but not least, our former president Donald Trump, who said, quote, the attack is a stroke of genius, by Putin. He feels that the U.S. should treat Mexico the same way, and he called Putin a peacekeeper. Really? Well, that's no big surprise given the former president was pretty much a puppet, and probably still is a puppet of Vladimir Putin. And back in 2016, intelligence sources within the White House indicated that Russia did meddle in the election, and Trump didn't buy it, that he took the side of Putin in that infamous meeting. And when the two of them were standing at the podiums, side by side, Trump may have been standing physically taller than Putin, but the bottom line is Putin, both character and in force, stood way above Trump. It was way out of that man's league, and it's just, basically Putin has Trump wrapped around his little finger. That's the bottom line, okay? You can't expect a shred of humanity or decency from a narcissist, from a pathological liar. And here's the other point I'd like to make, is that if you're in support of these people, like if you support Trump and everything, you technically are taking the side of Putin. You're basically siding against the war. Maybe you don't say that openly. Maybe you'll say, yeah, I support Trump, but I don't support the things he says. I'm in support of Ukraine. Technically, you can't have both. I mean, technically you can, but you really can't, because inwardly you're kind of saying, yeah, our former president has said some pretty nasty things, given he's a one-term, twice-impeached president, but it's okay, I still support him. Well, then technically you are providing support in there for Putin as well, and, that puts your morals into question. These people that I've just listed, to me, these people have no real morals, that they are just, morally bankrupt. They pretty much sold their souls, for power and everything, and stuff like that. That somehow siding with Russia is a good thing. To be sympathetic towards the people of Russia, yeah, for what they're suffering, but to be in support of Vladimir Putin and his actions, no. That means you are more in support of an authoritarian. You're more in support of a dictator. What I would say to these people, especially J.D. Vance, since how little he claims to care, since how quick he is to change his morals, well, since you all admire Putin so much, and that's who you think is like a stroke of genius, as Trump would say, maybe you would all be more comfortable living in Russia. Maybe you shouldn't be living in America, where we are a democracy. Maybe you should be in Russia. Maybe you would be more comfortable there, so you could take the knee and bow to Putin and tell him all the sweet, kind things and how much of a great leader you think he is. Maybe you'd be more comfortable, there instead. I've spoken to, like I said, some friends and coworkers who have lived in Russia a lot of times, and living under Putin's rule is not all that it's cracked up to be. Believe me. So, in the end, it's just a matter of saying, well, let me just add this. I'm not telling people who you should support. If you're going to continue to support these people, then that's what you're going to do. I'm just making a simple point. And that point is that we should always stand for what's right. We should always stand on the side of humanity. That we shouldn't embrace authoritarianism. We shouldn't embrace a dictatorship. We should never embrace those things, okay? We are still a democracy in spite of what has recently been going on in our country, that we're struggling with our democracy. You stand for what is right. I like to stand for what is right. I am in support of humanity. I'm in support of Ukraine. What are you in support of? Anyway, I hope you understand, and thank you for watching.